Hello, hello. Hi guys. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about what are the impacts of how AI is going to have evolve, and what are the impacts it's going to have on our society. So I've been hearing a lot of talks about how people actually fear AI, and for in their closed bubbles, it makes a lot of sense of their fears of their systems being upended, them being fearful of how people are going to lose their jobs, how the AI is going to change the systems, and it's going to impact a lot of people negatively, at least in the short run. And rightfully so. If you look in the short term and at the now, it does feel like a lot of things are going to change very fast, rapidly, in a more in a somewhat destructive manner, and it's just gonna happen that many people are gonna lose their current jobs. But I tend to look at it from a very different perspective. As someone who is in this area for a long time, I've been learning the AI systems, I've been learning how to design research algorithms, the AI algorithms that go into the cutting edge, super world class material discovery problems, or even solving neuroscientist problems of how to automate all their segmentation tasks like NPH, etc. Even designing different types of security systems so that we know that agentic AI is stable and secure on the edge. Given all that background, I have delved in this area for quite some time. By being in this area for a long time, it has given me enough understanding and somewhat of an insight on how I actually see these systems evolving, and how I think the things are actually going to play out. The way I see is that these AI systems is by definition, by the way of its construction, it is generally a centralized technology. So what happens is all the trivial tasks that were actually happening, it can learn to mimic those at a very high succession rate, with a very high success rate. So with that high of success rate, almost equivalent or sometimes even better than a human being, naturally a person who is in charge of the systems would wanna have an entity which can do the same operations as a human being while being cheaper, never getting tired, never asking for compensation, and eventually you're gonna pay them very, very less. So, with all those advantages in place, and of course, the advantage of them producing the predictable result every single time, it just gives a lot of advantage to the people in the system to work for what they actually work for. Many of these people are actually working to get money, get financially stable, get financially rich, to show the revenue on the charts, to show the revenue to the VCs, to show that the business is thriving. That's the main objective, and they're working for their goal. So it only makes sense for the people to actually incorporate. Let's say they are generous and they don't do it, their competitor will do it. So the competitor will gain advantage just by adopting the latest edge principles like AI, even if their general systems are not that advanced. So all these factors included, it is just natural that most of the people are going to adopt AI systems. Now that being said, yes, people in those existing systems will lose their jobs. People, there's going to be a lot of automation. Even more so, there's gonna be some systems which actually collapse because we still do not know how well the AI systems can reliably perform. because of how the cutting edge system it is right now, we have not seen the implications of what it can, how much harm it can cause. I am actually predicting, I'm actually uh, I can actually see that it can cause degrees of magnitude more harm than any virus that was designed to cause harm in a software system. So first there was a huge software boom, and then there were a lot of bugs and vulnerabilities that were designed by hackers and all those people in that hacking community to be able to hack in those systems and see how robust is that system is. Now, given the existing non-deterministic nature of many of these AI systems, it is only natural that the probability of something going wrong is actually exponentially more. But these being cutting edge systems, many people do not even understand what's going on behind the hood. So we are still secure, but only to a certain point. Given that, given that being said, yes, there is of course a lot of harms that we can see in the short run for at least an individual, right? Every individual that sees it right now either sees it as 95% of 90% of the people actually see it as a bug, not a feature. But I have been in this domain for quite some time, and I can tell you that when you learn to accept this particular technological innovation that has happened, it is actually gonna give you so much power that you have never imagined before. Now, stepping back, as a society, we have always been going from a more hierarchical system to a more sovereign system. But by that I mean that many of the systems that have been designed have been central, top down, kings and peasants systems for generations, for eons. That has been the system that we have been designing and adopting. There's kings who makes all the decisions, and the peasants do all the basic level worker jobs, and they are basically guaranteed by the structure of the system itself that the kings will supposedly, by the social contract, will take care of the peasants. That might happen, that might not happen, but that is the general contract that was unsaid contract signed between the kings and the peasants. So the peasants work for the system, and in turn they get benefits from the society. That has changed, at least to some extent, in the last 200 to 300 years ago. We developed democracy, where we say the power is by the people, for the people, of the people. So, as the democracy developed, we gave more power in the hands of the individual itself. We started to say that there should be no king. There should be no king. There should be the guy, there should be the person, there should be the girl who is their own king. We want to give the most power to the individual itself, and we trust that an individual can take the best decisions for themselves because they are an adult, and they can take really good decisions, good or bad, but good for themselves. And having such a system will actually make the person happy, as a whole, this belief, if all the individuals drive with this belief, then as a whole we can do really well as a society. So that belief system has been inculcated in the follow up systems after kings and peasants, which is the democratic system, where we combinedly make individual decisions, but some decisions are actually also taken democratically to elect people in power, the people we want, the people who we feel would be the best in and would work for our interests. So we've been giving power more and more to the individual, and we trust in the ability of each individual to do the best for themselves as well as the society. Now, that being said, we still have a system of people who run businesses, people who own the systems, like Rockefeller, like big organizations like Facebook, Google, big organizations, big tech organizations, big big organizations in construction, big organizations in textile, so on and so forth, who run big systems, big organizations, big uh, and they of course are sometimes also uh, when they become too big, they are also directly get intervention with the state because their product or their services are so powerful that they directly impact so much range of people, like Google services for example, that any decision that they make directly impact the people, so the state has to be involved in regulation as well as working together with these big organizations who actually make products for the system, for the populace. That being said, there is still this dynamic of these organizations, the people who own the systems, they give out jobs for the people who are the general people, like in Hindi we say Aam Admi, or in English it's common people, who work jobs like 9 to 5, and they're guaranteed a paycheck. They're guaranteed a job security. They're guaranteed some sort of security in terms in exchange of their time and labor that they put in to work for somebody else's dream, to work for somebody else's structure, and in turn they get a lot of benefits like security. They learn some new skill. They do not have the fear of always getting the money in. They are guaranteed a paycheck, so on and so forth. So health benefits, etc., etc. So there is still that somewhat of a dynamic of a king and a peasant, but with much more benefits of individualism and sovereign principles that we have tried to inculcate by ascending our principles or ascending our system from the kings and peasants to more individualistic society, more democratic society. Now, that being said, so yes, there is there is a trade-off where we have a system now which has people, the populace, working a 9 to 5 job, and we have some people who own the systems who are also doing a really hard job, who are managing the risk for all these people, who are driving in the revenue, who are building these huge systems so that people can function, live on their daily life without any troubles, without any fear of security, of having food on the table, etc., etc. But of course, they of course also win big because they have taken the risk, and each of these small players, elements, or the players in that organization is only getting a small pie because of course they're guaranteed that security and all these added benefits that the manager of the structural organization is not getting. So that's the payoff. But still, there's still a hierarchical dynamic that's going on here. I am uh, if to put it simply, I am predicting that this dynamic itself is going to end. The reason being that the structure of hierarchical organization where people are treated as capital and labor is now being actively replaced by AI systems which can do the same job precisely, accurately, in a very fast manner, and they are predictably, reliably doing the same thing again and again. They can reproduce, so reproducibility, and it saves a lot of money, cost, and time. So, so cost and time. So there is almost no disadvantage there besides security, which is also being solved on the side. So it is only natural that for an optimized, if you play an optimization game or assist, or we just do the maths, that many people are going to be replaced by these AI systems which can do this job just better, just better. So what's going to happen with all this big population that we have? In the last 10 years, our population has exponentially increased. It's crazy. We have like 8.5 billion people on the planet Earth now, and it's crazy how we have not thought about how we are driving the systems forward, but what's going to happen with this whole populace. Most of them work a job, most of them are employed working a 9 to 5, maybe more, maybe 9 and 6, I don't know, many people also do that, and they're just going to be let go because we don't need you anymore, right? Well, that's where I am saying that we need to change our perspectives. Although, yes, in the short run, their jobs are gone. Yes, many of these people will think it's unjust that they work for the man, that they had reliability and they had security and they invested and contributed so much, even to the revenue, even to the structure, even to the organization in so many ways that it's almost invaluable, and they're still being replaced like a cog in the wheel which is not no longer needed. And it just sucks. It just feels really really sucky. It's bad. If you look on the other side though, what is AI? It is a centralized technology, right? What it has enabled us to do is take that centralized system, and if you as an individual, let's say you had a vision, you had some idea, you wanted to do something unique when you were small or when you were young, and you wanted to build something but you just felt incapable, or you felt like you didn't have the capital itself to actually do those things. Well, now is the time. AI collapses the gap between the people who own the structure, who own the capital, and the person who doesn't own the capital, who doesn't own the resources, or who doesn't own, uh, let's say, enough revenue or money to employ people to do those jobs. Simply put, it actually gives the power in the hand of each individual to be able to work, create, envision, dream, and actually reliably produce and deliver and execute and win on the dreams that they actually envision. Each individual has got much more power than any king had a few hundred years ago. Every individual has a power to create things which would have taken years, if not decades, to build. And you can just create something, learn something, and be your own boss within seconds, within few minutes, just by having so much information, knowledge, creativity, and this whole AI that can work for you as your Targus, as your Jarvis, from Marvel, so to say, at your fucking fingertips. This great technology collapses the gap between the people who own those systems and the individual who earlier did not have the resources, the capital, the power, the leverage to have those things. And it gives equals the playing field where each person can choose to be sovereign and actually build something from what they inspire to be, from what they want to be, from what they dream about, from what they envision to be, from what they actually feel like giving out in the world, and actually execute on it and deliver on it. So, no, although AI seems on the front face, from the face value of it, that it's actually not so good for us, it is actually helping each individual to take their power back, that they had given up for the social contract, for the kings and peasants dynamic. And each person can be their own king, their own sovereign individual who produces so much value in the world just by executing and being having the ability to execute and work and deliver, actually deliver on the vision and the passion that they have for something in the world. You can learn, you can achieve, you can build and you can achieve so much that it was not even possible by organizations of 20 people 5 years ago, that you can do right now, and it's only going to improve. So this centralized technology is actually, if executed well, if we think about the governance principles and the safety principles well, it actually is going to help each individual get so much power that it's only going to be a positive from here. So that was my take on how actually AI is going to impact society, and we need to be looking from a very more holistic and much more positive outlook, rather than just looking from a bare, simplistic and reductionist mindset of how these huge, giant evolution and revolution that has happened technologically and how it's going to impact us. That's all for today. Stay tuned.